Welcome to I Am Goddess Collective podcast, a sacred space for empowerment through modern magic, spiritual activism, and reclaiming your power. I am your host, Nixie Marie, feng shui practitioner, earth activist, and mystic, here to support and inspire your journey in becoming the change you wish to see in this world. That change starts within. Join myself and fellow thought leaders, metaphysical experts, and luminaries each week as we explore practical and magical ways to living in your highest alignment. Your journey as an empowered goddess begins here. Let's dive in. Hello, lovely ladies. Welcome back to another fantastical, magical, mystical episode of I Am Goddess Collective. We are here today to bring you a smile and uplift your spirits and your soul and raise the vibes, because sometimes right now, that's what we need, some high vibes. So we have the lovely Mimi Truong on the show today, of course, because it's a new month. It's May, and we just celebrated Beltane. We're in the transition, like midsummer, mid-spring. So the sun has hopefully returned to wherever you are tuning in, and we are still in quarantine. So that's been an interesting one, and I'm learning so much about myself, and I know you guys are learning so much about yourself, because it's almost like, how can you not be growing right now? How can you not be seeing and being triggered and being challenged and being invited to grow right now and flourish and fall down to your knees and pick yourself back up and experience all the extremes of our emotions, from sadness to happiness to bliss to joy, all of them. So it's been a wild ride, and I'm right there with you. And I just want to say thank you all so much for your support. As many of you know, I just had a big launch with my new product line, Clarity, and it was so beautiful and successful. And I just want to thank you, Cameron and I, for a lot of your support from the show. I know that I love when I get to see like an order come in and I see the name and I'm like, I know her. She's a listener. And I get so excited. And, so I really wanted to just extend my thanks and my gratitude for you supporting our new business venture, as I've had to make such big transitions and shifts in my life to close one business and open another. So that has been not an easy path, but, we pivot with grace here, right? So if you are interested in hearing about this new business venture and the product line, it is called Clarity, Claryti. It is a eco-friendly, zero-waste home cleaning solution. And I've been developing this product for the last 3 years in my professional home cleaning business in LA. So it is a potion for your home that is going to raise the vibes and make things magical. It's an all-purpose cleaner. So we really are focusing on one thing for all things. And something that has zero waste, so no single-use plastics, and can really support the health of you and your family, as well as our planet Earth. So if you'd like to check that out, go to www.clarity.com, claryti.com/goddess, and you can see what I've been up to. So there's been so many changes that we're making to really shift things and make things a lot simpler here, since I've definitely had to lighten my team load, and a lot of the work now is in my hands. So I'm making things a lot easier for me, and I have decided to close the membership. So we are closing the membership site, but we're opening it up to Patreon. So everything now is going to be going through Patreon, and I have to say, it is so much easier to do that. And it's just simple. We're going to do bonus episodes every single week. So if you want to become a Patreon subscriber and support the show, you can head on over to www.patreon.com/goddess collective. And your contribution goes towards editing costs. It goes towards keeping this show on the road, because my other business supported this show, and now that is gone. So we've got to, this show needs your support more than ever. And I want to just thank those who have already become Patreons. And with that being said, we do have a new Patreon supporter, and that's Candice Dugas. Thank you so much, sister, for becoming a Patreon and supporting the show. We have a card reading to read for you at the moment, since that is part of your tier. So I'm going to pull a card here from the Moon Deck, which is one of our sponsors. You can get your own deck, themoondeck.com/goddess to get 10% off. But I have a card for you, lovely Candice. So, I pulled the boundaries card. So this could be a really good card in knowing that it's time to cultivate healthy boundaries and keep yourself centered and balanced right now. This card is so beautiful because it's a woman who's lying in this sort of crisscross mudra, and she's got the feeling of this woman behind her with her hands on her, and she's got her arms up and these two crescent moons in her hands, and she's wearing this beautiful tie-dye onesie, and she's just surrendering. It's like this full surrender into the hands behind her, and knowing that inside there's this like sense of confidence and exuding presence of, I cultivate boundaries. And in order to do that, it allows for you to really it requires you to really have a strong sense of what keeps you centered and what keeps you balanced. And in order for you to have those boundaries, they've got to support your balance. So for an example, if you're saying yes to things that aren't keeping you centered and balanced, that's you going against your boundaries. So anytime that you go against your boundaries, you're going to feel off balance. You're going to feel drained. You're going to feel depleted. You're going to feel like it's not in alignment. So just take note, and it takes time to really flex that muscle, just like our intuitive gifts. It takes time to really get used to what new boundaries look like. And one of the things that I really enjoy about this boundaries card is it always reminds me to check in with myself about what my boundaries actually are. Because a lot of times we just roll through life and we don't know what our boundaries are. So with that being said, take a moment to maybe journal with your boundaries and ask yourself, what boundaries do you need in this moment? Are there things that you need to say to somebody in order to keep those boundaries honored and sacred? And maybe you need to say to someone like, hey, you've crossed my boundaries. You've crossed the line and I let it happen. So I'm going to take ownership and acknowledge that. However, now is time for me to really cultivate this boundary and make sure that I'm discerning about my energy. Your energy right now could be a little displaced and dispersed everywhere. So take time to really bring that into the center and ground and anchor that in. It's really important that you do so right now. So I hope that card supports you. Again, that was the boundaries card by the Moon Deck. And Candice is our new Patreon subscriber. So if you would like to get your card reading on the show, you can become a Patreon subscriber at the first tier, which is $5.55 a month. And you'll also get weekly. Once we get to a place where we have at least 10 Patreons, I'm going to start doing live streams over there weekly. So we've got to get to at least 10 because I don't want to go live and like nobody shows up. So that's a new feature in the Patreon, but I want to really keep it intimate and be able to connect with you guys one-on-one. So that's the intention there. But thank you so much for supporting the show. All right, ladies. So let's get into this episode with the lovely Mimi Truong, our resident astrologer. And please go follow our Instagram page, I Am Goddess Collective Podcast, and our Facebook page. We have a private Facebook group, I Am Goddess Collective, and we've got my own personal Instagram if you want to follow my weird and wild journey in life, Nixie_Marie_, and also the lovely Mimi Truong has a beautiful Instagram with lots of astrology updates. It's called Exalted, IGZOLTED. So let's tune into this lovely episode with my dear soul sister, Mimi Truong. See you on the other side. Hello, lovely ladies. Welcome to another month inside I Am Goddess Collective podcast. A new month means, welp, what do you guys think? We have the lovely resident astrologer, Mimi Truong, in the house. What's up, sister?
Woohoo! I am so excited. We're on week 6 or whatever, a month and a half of quarantine time. How are you surviving?
Well, I'm doing good. I would say as good as it gets. And that is really good. It feels like I'm very proud of myself for like how I've been handling this, saying no to like a lot of things, being really discerning and just like detoxing a lot. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster though, and also very challenging at times. Like there have been moments where I have been in full breakdown and feeling really angry and frustrated. And anger has been a very interesting, actually, emotion that I've been feeling more so than I've ever felt. And I think that's where this medicine of the virus is really beautiful, because I realized through some of that anger that was stored trauma that I've had. And it like, as soon as it like came out, it was like, oh, wow, that was in there for a while. Felt good to get out.
Yes. Oh my God. It's like an exorcism of energy, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely lots of those. So what about you, love?
I think day one was really hard. But then now I love it. To be honest, I've only left the house and been in a car 4 times only.
Oh my gosh.
To go to the grocery store. And that's it. I've been inside my condo and literally waking up. I have a routine. I think the quarantine had forced me to create a new routine that is completely different than before. Before was easy. Wake up, get dressed, left the house, go to the office, came back home, ordered food, eat, watch TV, go to bed. But now I'm like, okay, well, we can't just eat out or order in all the time. Like in the beginning, there's so much uncertainty that, okay, let's cook. Let's go back to basics. And I've been cooking a lot. And then I got so much in that rhythm of just kind of hominess and old, like just basic stuff, and still really good. It felt very nourishing. And then one day I realized, you know what? I'm a little bit exhausted, just always cooking, because that means always cleaning.
Yep.
And I realized, oh my gosh, there's so many dishes to clean. And then I gave myself permission to order in after I think a whole month. I go, oh wait, it's time for me to just be okay with ordering in. So since then, I think we've only ordered in maybe 3 or 4 times, but I still continue cooking as much as I can. My body though, not moving that much. So finally I downloaded an app to start moving my body to work out from home. And yesterday it felt really good.
I love it. I love hearing that you're cooking. I am too. I feel like the domestic goddess archetype, I talked about this on another podcast, is so prominent for us right now.
Yeah.
And it feels really good. I've been like baking and cooking up some serious recipes, like things that I would never think to. Like I just cooked mango sticky rice on the boat.
Oh, yum.
It was delicious, and all inspired by this pina colada that I had to try to recreate from Thailand when I was visiting December before.
Oh yeah,
all this,
over the holidays.
Yeah, right before all this crazy stuff happened. Wow, that's so cool, and I'm proud of you for not ordering in so much. That is, quite an accomplishment.
I mean, I know for some people they want to support local mom and pop shops, which I think is totally awesome. Which, all the places that I order are also from mom and pop places anyways. But it really brought me into a new rhythm by allowing myself to just get up of my desk and go to the kitchen and feel, touch, smell all of the yumminess, and really regrounds me so that when I go back to work, I feel nourished on so many levels. Yeah,
Absolutely. Nourishment is the word right now. So much nourishment on all levels, like physical, emotional, sexual. You name it. Are you having some good quarantine sex? How's your quarantine sex life?
It's actually not bad. Yeah. I mean, it's not wild and crazy, but yeah, it's. I think all that watching Netflix, like and there's so many like scenes. We're like, okay, what's happening here? I mean, my husband and I did a marathon on Love Is Blind.
Oh wow!
And yeah, that have you watched it? It's so good.
No, I'm probably gonna have to cut it off my like show watching
TV?
until after we got really hooked on Westworld.
Yeah, we watched I think one episode of the new season.
Yeah, I got hooked on. The new season I didn't like as much.
Yeah.
But I hadn't watched the new one, so we went from the very beginning, and I was hooked, you guys. Like I was addicted. It full on transparency. So we're kind of coming off of that little like binge, and literally we had to say to ourselves like, okay, only 2 a night, like only 2 a night.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fine. Like there was a couple nights where I was like, 1 more, and so we got through it pretty fast. But this is why I don't trust myself with like Netflix and movies and stuff like that too much, because I will just like, I didn't grow up with a lot of movies and stuff. I was always outside, which I'd prefer anyways, but it is kind of nice. I'm like, this is okay. Like I can give myself permission to watch some stuff.
Yes. Because, to be honest, I usually don't watch TV at all. Yeah. My husband's the one who watches, and I just watch whatever he's watching.
Same.
So that's my way of just, otherwise, you know what? I would be in front of my computer and I'll keep working.
Exactly.
So in some ways, that's my break.
It is. And it's actually a nice way to relax. Like, okay, my day is done. And I mean, we don't finish our day until like 7:30 anyways. And then we're eating. And then it's like, okay, now we get to watch one show. So it's already like our days are long and stretched out, but we've been sleeping in a lot more. So I think that's why it's going a little later. But I feel so grateful to be in that space, because there's always that like self beat up voice that you would usually come up and be like, you're being lazy or this and that. And I realized that a voice came from like my father, and it's really not mine.
Yeah.
So that's again where this opportunity to really see these stories during this time are like play our lives on the subconscious level. It's quite a awakening,
Yeah, I feel like our subconsciousness is on a not a speaker, but it's magnified, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? Not on a intercom. Like it feels like it's on an intercom, and it's super loud in school. Remember, your principal would be calling your name in the intercom, and it's like everybody's looking
Mimi
at
Truong,
you. But
please
now,
come to the vice principal's office. You're like, shit, what did I do? They caught me.
But now you're in quarantine, so all of this stuff is coming out, and it's louder because there's nothing to distract. I mean, yes, there are some things, but it can take you so far, the distraction, that hey, we're being confronted with a lot of this thing like poking at you, and it's getting louder. So everything is magnified for sure.
Yeah, I do feel like we're sort of ants right now, and we're like, we have this big magnifying glass. We're like, what's going on there? And like squashing old stories. And it's been quite a journey. So I hope that our ramblings and stories of quarantine make you laugh and make you feel totally normal and sane, even though we're all mystics and we love to explore our tarot cards, etc. and crystals. Yeah. I actually haven't felt so needed in those spaces right now, which is very interesting. Like yoga is like, I finally gave myself a timer, 30 minutes, stretch your body yoga, like non-negotiable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've done it the last 2 days in a row, which is really exciting. I'm just going to celebrate that, because I've thought, like, I convinced myself at one point that I was working out, or that I was stretching enough, or that I was like, this is where the ego is such a trickster. And I wasn't, because my body, my sciatica, like my body is so tight. And I'm like, who am I kidding? Like, I am not doing it. Come on, Nix. Like, we got to get your shit together right now. So.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you. I'm feeling my lower back super tight, my neck. I'm like, how can my body get so sore from just sitting? And and not moving, but it has its own way of tensing up. So I got to move it.
And now's
It's
the
all
time.
this, yeah. All the feels, it's like body feels. Like it's such a Taurus season type of thing. Like I sometimes forget that we're in Taurus season, but this is really what Taurus is all about. Our senses, moving, like all of
senses.
Yeah, bring it all up. So
that's why you're cooking so much. Like you're smelling, you're touching,
yeah,
you're like indulging in all that nourishment.
Loving it. Yep.
Well, speaking of Taurus season, we've got a whole new month of astrological insights, and I'm curious to hear what's really going on, and if there's going to be a shift that might happen so that this pandemic just ends and we can all go back to our new world, not the old one, the new world that
New
we're
world.
living out.
This is truly a transition, right? May is jam-packed with so much stuff. So let's begin with, Venus has been in Gemini and since April, and it will continue being in Gemini until August 7. So it's a long journey for Venus in Gemini because it's going to retrograde on May 12.
So what does that mean for our relationships and love life?
Yeah. It's there's that duality of Gemini. It's very mental. So a lot of the mental stimulation is very much through dialoguing. It's through playfulness. It's the way we connect with in our relationships. It's very airy. It's not necessarily sexy, but it can be very flirtatious. I mean, people with Venus and Gemini in their natal chart tend to be very flirtatious. Maybe some of them might experiment with polyamory, right? So it's that kind of feeling of, one, the playfulness. It's have you ever heard of Animal Crossing?
No, but I was just having a thought of thinking of how none of us should probably be considering polyamory right now because
right. Yeah, you don't want to be sharing more germs. But,
oh my God. I was just having a whole image of like what it would be like if we were like out looking for new partners on dating, like dating in quarantine, basically. Anyways, that's where my mind just went.
Well, the thing is, for those who are single and exploring what that looks like, it might not be physical, but it could just be a mental stimulation of being turned on by someone else, but through a different form than just physical touch, but, playful banter. And it's the attraction of the mind. It's like, ooh, you're sexy. And then you can, be quick and witty. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that creates that tension, that sexual tension is that, hey, can someone be quick and witty and catch up to me type of vibe. And Venus in Gemini, so charming. It's the charmer, and sometimes can, be careful with, over-promising, because Gemini, it's not that Geminis want to be flaky, but it's more because they're just drawn to so many different things that's how they get, not focused, but they get, stimulated and captivate their interest.
Right.
But there's a lot of play. So this is during the quarantine time, it's a great time to start exploring new ways of being playful. So that's why I was asking if you heard of Animal Crossing, because I've never heard of it until one of, my husband's employees, she's really into it and she showed it to me, and I'm like, it's awesome. It's super cute. There's an obsession. It's kind of like a Sims, but on Nintendo Switch, and you can create your own home. You build you have land, and like it has its own economy, just kind of like Second Life. I don't know if you've ever played Second Life, but it's a whole virtual world that you create your own character, and it has its own money, currency thing. But that's kind of what's coming up during this time, is that people are being playful in a completely different way. That's how they connect. And when you play on Animal Crossing, you're playing with actually real people behind those characters, but digitally. And then you can actually, quote unquote, make friends and walk around and explore the world, and then buy things and decorate your home and all of that stuff. So it's just really interesting to notice how the sequence of all these astrological transits, and then compare it with the trends that are actually happening out there, is very like it parallels in a very weird way. So that's kind of what we're going to experience. But then Venus retrogrades May 12th until June 24th. So during those 40 days, it's very much going inward, either exploring, our finances and our values, because it has this duality. Like one moment we think we want and are interested in this shiny thing, and then the next thing we're like, wait, do I really want this other thing? But then it feels like those two things are opposite. So how do we have it all kind of idea? But then it's like a very, I don't know how that's going to end up looking like, but definitely a lot of revisiting, right? Any planets that retrograde, we go inward, like our attention goes inward. So whether we reevaluate our spending, and also Gemini, it's all about trade and commerce and businesses. So, you and I, before we actually started recording, we were talking about our businesses and PPPs and all of these stimulus plans. Like literally, that's basically what this is all about. It's the economy of our current market, how money is being dispersed, traded, generated, all like not generated. That's not quite a Gemini thing, but trade, business. The economy is very different now. So Gemini is always about, okay, well, how is this new way of doing business? Let's reflect on that. The money that we receive, okay, are we repaying this loan, or this is going to be a forgiven loan? But a lot of that Geminarian business econ stuff is all, and Venus rules money. So this is prime time for all of this stuff happening.
Wait, Venus rules money as well?
Yeah, Venus rules money because it's a rulership for Taurus, and Taurus rules money. So Venus rules values, or what is our value system, because it's connected to Taurus. And Venus rules relationships, harmony, because it's the rulership for Libra. So it all comes to play.
Well, first of all, can you guys just all take a moment and like love how much of a nerd that Mimi just geeked out on? I like, it is so adorable watching her just like get into these because this is like a couple times you've gone on like a gamer tangent, and I totally remember Sims. Like Sims was the shit. I would like hack the system and make like millions of dollars in a day. You had that, it was like Rosebud, like number or something, and you'd like make all this money and you build like the biggest house. I feel though that actually just kind of pulling out the concept of these things, how I feel really called to shed light on that we're almost a game of Sims right now. We're pretty much at this place where we can consciously create our reality. We already are. We do all the time. However, we are almost given a blank. Not we almost. We are. We're getting being given a blank canvas to go, well, where do I want to spend my energy? How much time do I want to invest in this? Is it really worth my time? What lifestyle do I want to live? Do I want to stay here in this place anymore? Do I want to put all my bills to this home? Can I rely on the government? Can I rely on this system? Is this system safe? Am I safe? Like all of these questions that I think really rise up. And when we build our homes, we build this reality. You know, we are in a digital game. So essentially, you know, we're playing a game here. This is our movie that we're creating. So
true. Oh my God. I love our conversation. You always play off of like all the stuff I say and like you bring it all to life. It's so true.
Yeah, well, I do too. That's why I look forward to these. And I know everybody does here too, because we have a good simpatico and have fun together. So
yeah. So you're right. It is. It's an opportunity. I know for some people it's hard. But at the same time, when you go allow yourself to dig deep enough, you can find that opportunity, like the flip side of things, right? Gemini is always curious. So explore, embrace curiosity, embrace not knowing, because freaking Geminis, that's one thing that they're good at is adapting and always asking questions. Because if you don't ask questions, you'll never be able to go somewhere different because you're just going to turn in the same circle. It's like the dog chasing after its own tail. Gemini really offers that playfulness and lightheartedness despite this heaviness happening around us. But, you know, Gemini moves fast. So, you know, take advantage of this time to talk to people. Like Gemini also allows for talking to other people, use other people as sounding board and talk it out and then reprocess things for yourself. And I think that's what our journey is really about. It's to not play it all alone. It's not about playing it safe because clearly nothing is safe. I mean, we can honor how to be responsible, but nothing is guaranteed. Like security is an illusion, and yeah,
it really is. And I think now, like what you said with the subconscious, like we're being shown things because that truth has always been there. You know, we've always lived in uncertainty. We've always lived in a place of, you know, instability in certain ways. And now I think the bigger task is acceptance and realizing that, you know, we're kind of like I've been having this conversation multiple times and it keeps coming up on the podcast, but we're very much in this like hard matriarchal system right now, where this feminine yin, graceful, go with flow, slow down, pause, cook, nourish, create, like all of those elements of the feminine way are being activated within us right now. Even men, you know, men are seeing themselves dance in a new light and find themselves like, oh, I don't have as much, you know, I don't need to push. Maybe they don't have a big commute anymore. Maybe there's just less of the things that are mind like not supportive essentially. But now it's like, okay, we're in this place. And now how do we learn how to bring this in? Because I don't think any of us really know how to live and lead a matriarchal life. Nothing has the paperwork, the guides, the manuals, like those have not been written. And I feel like that's why we go to the stars, though. We look to the stars to see, you know, what's going on up there and why is this happening down here. And, you know, with Taurus, I always think of Taurus because I'm a Taurus rising. So that definitely makes sense right now, since I've been like, I took such a long pause the first month of really just like, you know what, I'm going to slow down and my business is closed. So maybe I need to reevaluate everything. And that's exactly what I've been doing. And now I've been like, okay, I'm ready. I'm feeling like the itch to just, go and create. And I know that is a big part of the Taurus, and it's an earthy foundational sign. So I'm feeling it a lot. Well, now seems like the perfect opportunity to share with you goddesses our newest sponsor, the Moon Deck. The Moon Deck is a beautiful oracle set that connects you to your intuition and brings self-care rituals into your daily life. Created to foster community and healing, this entire set of 44 cards, plus a beautiful guidebook filled with rituals, is inspired by the cycles of the moon and the empowerment of women. It shares insights on growth, purpose, practice, and emotional well-being. The Moon Deck can be worked with as an oracle guide, as a daily tool for reflection and meditation, or simply in a tarot-inspired spread. As a Goddess listener, you receive 10% off the entire site. So head on over to themoondeck.com/goddess and enter code GoddessMoon to receive your discount. Happy rituals and oracle card pulling, sisters. I love you. Sisters, I have been waking up with so much gratitude and appreciation, all thanks to my favorite app, Yoga Wake Up. Yoga Wake Up has been founded by two of the most amazing humans that I have ever met, and I am honored to be able to announce that they are our newest sponsors for the show. Yoga Wake Up is an audio-guided yoga and meditation app that takes away your beeping alarm clock and implements mindfulness and stretching and yoga into your day. It's only about 5 to 15 minutes long, and it can be replaced as your snooze button, because I know that personally my man loves to press snooze and it definitely messes with my sleep cycle. So we've invited Yoga Wake Up into our morning routine because it truly has had the impact to change our morning and implement this beautiful ritual to have intention to start the day. Instead of scrolling on social media, which you all know we're pretty guilty of in one way, shape, or form, and instead empower you to get ready for the day, have courage, have confidence, have charisma to take on whatever comes your way. Head on over to yogawakeup.com/goddess to get 25% off as a Goddess Nation listener. Are you currently stuck at home, looking around your space going, this thing could use a really good cleaning? Well, I have a very exciting product for you to try. I have been, as some of you might know, I've been developing a product line for the past 3 years inside my cleaning business. This product line has been my new baby. It's something that I'm so incredibly proud of, and it is called Clarity. Clarity is an all-amazing, all-organic, zero-waste full cleaning kit that makes your home smell delicious and invites you into a beautiful ceremony to clean and rid your space of all negative energies. So if you would like to try this beautiful cleaning kit, you can head on over to clarity.com/goddess. That's CLARYTI.com/goddess to check it out.
So this Venus retrograde in Gemini also teaches us to, like you said, that feminine energy. Like Gemini is it's not a feminine, it's actually a gender neutral
right
sign. And it forces us to have to move through different things differently and adapt and it's a mutable sign. So and we've always said, change is the one constant. We know that intellectually until we actually have to feel it in our bodies, ourselves, in our relationships, and really seeing everything unfolding because we're in quarantine, because our routines are completely being disrupted. And we have no choice. And so we're being pushed to get moving, change. Like the change around you and around us will not stop. So it's either we go along with it or we resist it and hold on to our own lives, and then finding ourselves having to work much harder to clean up the bigger mess rather than just dance with that mess, like that feminine energy, and then finding that I'm thinking like it's like an amoeba right now. Like I'm like touching and feeling this amoeba that we're just like, we don't know where it's going, but it's moving, and then let's see where it takes us, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is moving, it is going, and it is flowing. And I'm like, where are we going? I have no idea, but I have somewhat of a certainty. But here's the thing, the thoughts that I've been pondering lately have been around, why do we need to know all the answers? Like, why do we live our life trying so hard to find everything out? And there's so much like humbleness and like humility in that question, because we realize that we really don't know, like, between all the conspiracies going on, between all the things, between this, between that, and like the news, the media, there's so much thrown at our face. And honestly, at this point, like, I'm so agnostic around everything, because I'm like, you know what? We really don't know. Like, we don't know what's going on. And people that maybe claim they do know and they have all the answers, I'm like, okay, cool. I just feel like maybe you don't. Or why do you feel like you have to know? And why do you have to be the one that needs to know and and then show everyone that you know? Like, that to me has been a very interesting, like, and somewhat frustrating journey, because it's been a lot of my friends in my immediate circle that I feel that way with. And I'm like taking deep breaths and just, breathing in, realizing that at some point I was there too, and having compassion for like anyone that feels like they need to know, because it's almost this grasp and holding on to reality, holding on to control. Because when we think we know everything, then we have control over something. And I think when we don't have control over our lives and we don't feel like we are in a place of somewhat stability or safety, that's when we cling to these ideas. That's when we cling to this God or this Jesus figure or this or that or this religious thing, because we don't have that within ourselves. Right?
Amen. Well, this is funny because this is a great introduction of what will happen. Actually, even before Venus goes retrograde on, I think, the Mayo, May 5th, we have a lunar shift. The lunar nodes shifting out of Cancer and Capricorn, because they've been there for a year and a half. And that's why a lot of people have been feeling, if they're Cancer, Capricorn people, or they have strong planets in those signs, they've been going through a lot of familial, ancestral healing stuff. But now we're actually moving out of it. The North Node moves away from Cancer and goes to Gemini, and the South Node moves from Capricorn to Sagittarius, which in some ways lighten things up a lot for the world, for what we're experiencing around us. So certainly this is going to be the next like 18 months and a little bit more for people who are Gemini and Sagittarius. They're going to go through a lot, right? And like you went through your Saturn return, so you also went through a lot already, but now it's going to continue your journey. And the lunar nodes move backwards. They don't go forward. That's why they go from Cancer to Gemini. So what does that mean is literally what you just said, great segue, is why do we actually need to know, which is moving away from Sagittarius with the South Node of Sagittarius. For those who are not familiar with the South Node and North Node, South Node describes the energy of a past life. South Node shows ways that old ways, outdated ways for us to operate in, and then moving into our North Node. So everyone in our chart has a North Node, South Node, but then also transit-wise, meaning out in the space, there's the nodes are an intersection, a point up in the sky. It shifts, it moves to a different zodiac sign. So it impacts and influences like some of what is being focused. And we're focusing more on the curiosity. The North Node is what we want to access more. And then South Node is the things that we've got to start shifting out and releasing the shadow part of that zodiac sign. So Sagittarius is the seeker of the truth, but being that it's South Node, there has to be some sort of outdated perspective of what used to be true, like the old philosophy, the old framework, the old ideologies, the old beliefs needs to be peeled off, and being challenged. A lot of that, the self-righteousness, I already know the answer is a very, when Sagittarius is maladaptive, meaning the extreme excess version of Sag, because Sag is wisdom. But when wisdom becomes all-knowing, then it doesn't leave room for the playfulness, the curiosity, because it's like, yeah, I'm preaching one thing and it is only one thing and that's it. So then it becomes very dogmatic. So a lot of the North Node energy invites in more of that curiosity, invites the duality, the playfulness. Well, what if? Kind of what you said. Well, what if we didn't know? Okay, well, now we're asked to explore the assumptions of what it means to know. Right? Is it an ego thing? Okay, maybe, but why is your ego need to be right? So you've got to start like digging through that, because the reason why maybe you need to be right might be a different reason for me to be right. And imagine if everyone wanted to be right, then no one is right, because there's not one absolute truth, because everyone has their own truth. So it's kind of like this really interesting philosophical journey that we're going through in the next year and a half, and it's coming up in May very soon. So
interesting.
So exciting.
Yeah, I see the synchronicities there in a lot of ways. On a personal note, I would say I relate to that in ways in which a lot of old things I was really interested in don't interest me as much anymore. And I was listening to a podcast on the human design, and I'm learning a lot about human design right now. It's called, I'm going to have her on the podcast. It's called Is Your Aura On Right? I think it's called the podcast, which is such a cute name. And she talks about generators. I'm a generator, and talks about mastery. And I love that name. I love that word, because that's sort of what I see from this whole South Node to North Node thing. Is it's this mastery of thyself. And in a lot of ways, I feel like, okay, I've completed that master. Like that is under my belt. I know that. I feel a master in certain ways. And mastery takes time, right? Like it took me, I started sewing when I was 12 years old. And I've been sewing since. I mean, I have stopped for a period of time, but I felt complete with my mastery. And that's sort of what this North Node feels like. It's like, okay, I'm complete with that story. What's next? What's next on my mastery plane? And we all have different human designs. We're actually going to have another human design expert coming on next week. So you guys will maybe get more insight on what that all means and what you are. What are you, Mimi? Do you know?
Yep, I'm a generator.
Yeah, so we're both generators. That makes sense. So we both always have to be mastering something, is what I really gained from that. And with Gemini, like Sagittarius, I find that I have so many identities, so many truths, but having no attachment to those truths
Mm-hmm.
is I feel like where we get to go.
Mm-hmm.
Not attached to that person's opinion, not attached to that person's opinion, not even attached to our own, but knowing our truth inside,
Mm-hmm.
like finding our own inner compass through
Mm-hmm.
this journey. So that really relates to me. I mean, what is my question I have like popping up is, what will happen for those that are Geminis and Sagittarius? Like, what do you predict, just to say, for like during this next year and a half? Do you feel like there's going to be
Mm-hmm.
massive transformations? Like, what can we expect?
For those people, yeah. I mean, just if you are or know anyone that is a Cancer or a Capricorn, or rising Cancer Capricorn, or a moon Cancer Capricorn, there is no doubt that you have gone through some serious changes in the last year and a half. Like, impossible that you did not. You have had to have shifted in some sort of way. It will be different for different people because of depending on how that shows up in your chart. So similarly, that's going to be true for for our Geminis and Sagittarius. Also, the zodiac signs that are 3 zodiac signs away from them are also going to be impacted. So when North Node, South Node was in Cancer and Capricorn, well, all our Aries and Libras were also impacted because they are 3 zodiac signs away. And it also creates a lot of friction. And so it creates a lot of changes for those people too. So for Gemini, Sagittarius, it would be for, I believe it's the Virgo, Pisces are also going to get a lot of that. It will be impacted. So similarly for all 4 zodiac signs, it will be around, they're all mutable signs, which means that there's one thing about mutable signs, it's that once they decide to shift, they will shift. And it's all of them really experience duality very intensely. It's not just one, it's 2. So however that flip-flops for you,
Mm-hmm.
It will shift. Like, it will open up new ways of learning, new information you're acquiring, new wisdom that you are embracing. So for those who know me, I'm a huge fan of the bullet journal method, which that is like a whole productivity, but mindfulness, tool. But in that book, the book is so philosophical. That's why I love it so much, in the way that we live mindfully and intentionally. And writer Carol, the author, said that our actions depend on our belief system. So we will never do something unless we believe that this is based on our belief system. We take action that is aligned to that belief. So with the South Node in Sagittarius, if we are shifting our belief, then our actions as a result will change. So the things that we do are habits. The things that we're willing to learn, and how we operate from the information that we acquire will also change. So there's a lot of things changing because we're confronting the things that underneath the hood is not that it's, it can be defective. I mean, we can make the judgment that they're defective, but it's just not serving the purpose of this time. And mutable signs are always moving with time. Like they have no concept of time, first of all, because they're just free spirits, these mutable signs. But it's more about how they meet the world.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, I'm open. Like at this point, anything is possible, and we truly are in a wild ride, and it's beautiful. I mean, I love that the way that we kind of started this, and you're like, I love it. I'm home. I get to nourish myself. I get to cook. And that's sort of where I think these small shifts and these transitions that we're all seeing in our lives happen without with almost no choice. It's just like, oh, here we are. You're going to be in this situation now. And so it's beautiful. It's all the things. Really is.
Yeah. And I hope that if anything, people can learn to really embrace change. And also with Saturn, currently in Aquarius, I mean, Aquarius is all about change and disruption. So we're already experiencing it. And like you said earlier, it's really about the acceptance of it and not the judgment of it, because the judgment is that keeps us captive.
Yeah.
And it keeps us captive both in our bodies and in our mind. But the resilience of our mind is what will move us through this difficult time. Similarly to, Viktor Frankl's book on the meaning of man, and his telling of his story of how he survived oh my gosh,
I can't. That book.
But oh my gosh, is it escaping me? But really, it's the strength of our mind and what we believe, because it's the power of our thoughts, right? And it really dictates our ability to survive really hard times. It's the way that we view the world, the way that we think about the world, the way that we see ourselves as part of the world. It's very much that Gemini, and it's more about the Sagittarius, because then if we're stuck in that muck, then we can't move towards that curiosity and that playfulness and lightheartedness of Gemini. And the Gemini, a real Gemini is be able to see opportunities. They're great negotiators. They're great business people, is because they have the ability to negotiate. And because they're not attached to anything to be true, which is the opposite of Sag, right? Sag, part of their construct is they have to have a target and they have to experience their truth. But the South Node is asking us to let that go, because Gemini sees opportunities anywhere they go. It's like, oh, can I make a buck here? Sure. Okay. What do I need to do? And they'll make it happen.
That's powerful. Wow. Well, I mean, there's a lot going on. I didn't realize we have so many. It feels like a lighter shift, though. It feels like it's not a heavy, like something is coming. It feels like, no, am I wrong?
Well, it is lighter, but then we're also, we have a lot of planets going retrograde. I mean, right now we have Pluto going retrograde. And then we're going to have Jupiter going retrograde at the end of, I think more like June or July. I can't remember. But and then Saturn's going to go retrograde May 10th on Mother's Day. So there's a lot of heavier planets that are retrograding. So it really is slowing down. But the benefit of slowing down is, all right, let's get crystal clear about what it has been holding us back, because we've got to be very reflective. So all of these planets are retrograding. And that's why, you know, a lot of the astrologers like are looking at 2020. It's a powerful year, of course, because we have so many planets retrograding. I mean, Pluto retrogrades like half the time, but, you know, Venus is retrograding this summer. We're going to have Mercury retrograding in July. And then at the end of the year, we're going to have Mars retrograding. So this whole entire year is a lot of internal reflection. But what's available at the end of it, if we allow it, is a lot more freedom. Or if we don't allow it and if we resist it, the result is kind of like anarchy. It's going to be chaos. But not because of the outside, but because it's showing up in our inside.
Wow. I really love that, because I feel like, you know, the first thing that came up, you're like, okay, it's time to go within. So we like keep saying that, right? And I almost felt like rolling my eyes and going, we're still doing this thing. But it's like, yes, of course, we haven't been doing this enough. Like just doing it and then you're done isn't how it works.
Correct.
So what a great opportunity to make this your year to really get clear and like ninja goddess warrior out on how you're going to like tackle your life and embrace life and thrive in your life and make the changes, like make choices, make changes that are in alignment with what you are happy about, joyful about, and, you know, not, and don't play the victim, like the martyrdom, the victim, like that story. If you do play that story, which we all do, and we've been victim of playing the victim. Take inventory, and notice when it comes up. Notice and ask, am I playing a victim here? Am I playing in that role? And how does that serve me? Is that in alignment? And that's, I think, where we start to really take inventory on what's going on inside. We really get a microscopic viewpoint of what's going on in our brains and how a lot of our stories, a lot of our thoughts just are on this like autopilot, and they repeat and they repeat and they repeat. And then we're in this loop over and over again. So it's exciting. You know, I actually just got this book and I keep staring at it. I'm so obsessed. The Fifth Sacred Thing by Starhawk.
Oh,
have you heard of this book?
Sacred Thing? No.
So I'm going to read the back of the book because I feel so called to bring it into this because it's so relevant to the times. Like if you were to pick up any book right now and read it, or maybe listen to the audiobook if you're not a reader, this is definitely the book. So Starhawk, as you all should probably know, Starhawk, she's like the mother goddess of all wise woman tradition. And she's also an earth activist. And a lot of her work is what I aspire to be and do in the world. So this book is about, it's a fiction book. So imagine a world without poverty, hunger, or hatred, where a rich culture honors its diverse mix of races, religions, and heritages. Can't say that word apparently. And the four sacred things that sustain life, earth, air, fire, and water, are valued unconditionally. Now imagine the opposite, a nightmare world in which an authoritarian regimen policies an apartheid. There's a lot of big words here for me. Apartheid state. Apartheid? Apartheid. There we go. Thanks, memes. State. Yeah. Access to food. It's always interesting when you read out loud. You're like, oh, I can't pronounce that word. Cute. Access to food and water is restricted to those who obey the corrupt official religion. Women are of the property of their husbands or the state, and children are bred for prostitution and war. The best and worst of our possible futures are poised to clash, and the outcome rests on the wisdom and courage of one clan caught in the conflict. Kind of interesting, right? It's like, so there's the story goes where it's like, the fifth sacred thing is spirit. So how do we nurture spirit? How do we bring spirit to life? How do we let that win over the war and the poverty? And, you know, sort of this kind of came after The Handmaid's Tale. So it's very interesting. And I feel like there's inspiration there for what we just sort of discussed on this like new world. And the cover is so enticing because it's like this woman looking out into the distance with a staff in her hand. And she's just like, what is possible when we break through the limitlessness and the war and the poverty and the greed? What is possible? Because all of that is within us. We've got a war going on inside. We have old stories of poverty. Like we're all one here. So what is possible when we fight for that and fight for love? You know? You know what I'm saying, girl?
Yes. Yes.
So
the promised land.
The promised land.
and we get to create it here.
Yeah, we're creating it. We are consciously creating it. So, well, Mimi, this has been fun. As always, I adore our chats and insights on the stars. It just always keeps me in check and gives me a heads up on what's to come. And I know everybody loves you here. So as we wrap up this show, do you have any final things that we need to know about for this month ahead?
Keep yourself, like, it's more like believe in the fact that you can survive this, right? It's like, and thrive from it. It's just keep going. This is not the end of the road. This is just crossing the bridge.
Great way to leave us with your wisdom. Mimi, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Exalted, IGZOLTED. And then my website is the same word, just .com at the end. And I updated my website, so go check it out, guys.
Ooh, yes. All right, ladies, I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in as always. And check out Mimi if you're interested in getting your astral chart read, which now feels like a pretty good time to do so if you're on the inner journey.
Oh, yes. I've been like very quiet in February. And then at the end of March, it's like nonstop. And then April is like nonstop. So I'm like, okay, I guess people are just kind of taking this time to, like you said, taking stock and inventory.
Yeah. Like what's going on? What's my future? Tell me everything. We did a little deep dive beforehand with my chart and kind of, figuring out where I'm going because I've got a lot of transitions in my life too and closures.
Yes.
And so, I've been, asking my guides and my lovely Mimi to help me figure out what the decision is, so it's
exciting. Yes.
All right, ladies. Well, I will see you next week. And thank you so much for tuning in. Bye, Mimi. Hope you all have a wonderful evening, day, time, whenever you find yourself tuning into this podcast. Bye for now.